I'd have known that the cowbell worked so well, I'd have used it when my kids were growing up. My understanding is that we had a little traffic jam at County Road 17 and County Road 6 and coming off the toll road. So that's a testament to how many people we have here this morning. My name is Greg Four. I'm the president of Dicor Corporation. It's my pleasure this morning to welcome you to the 4th annual RV Power Breakfast, facilitated by RV Business Magazine in conjunction with B.J. Thompson and Associates. The first Power Breakfast in 2013 drew a crowd of about 300 people. I can tell you we had no idea at the time that this event would grow to the point where we had to close reservations a month ago. And today there are approximately 800 of you with us to learn more about our industry, our economy, our government, and the end users of our products. And because of our record-setting attendance, this year's breakfast is being webcast, streaming live over the internet, so many others can join us this morning to learn more about our business and our industry. All involved are most appreciative of your support and your attendance, and that we hope through the presentations this morning that you leave moved, inspired, or entertained, or all three, by our tremendous lineup of guests, all of whom understand that we promised our audience that we'll conclude the event on time, and that keeping that promise is extremely important to us. And as you recall, that's what the bell's for. During the last half of today's lineup, you'll hear from elected officials, or for the first half of today's lineup, you'll hear from elected officials who represent our interests locally, at the state level, and at the national level. We believe that helping our elected officials understand us as people, as companies, and organizations help lead to thoughtful partnerships in legislation and policy as it relates to recreational vehicles and those people who build, sell, and use them. As this event has grown in stature and attendance, we have relied heavily on our sponsors to support the RV Power Breakfast, and they have met the challenge. I'm going to take just a moment to acknowledge the sponsoring companies. There's no need to stand. Please hold your applause until I've completed the list. In alphabetical order: Cummins Onan Corporation, Dicor Corporation, Dometic Corporation, Forest River, Jayco, KOA, RVIA, Spartan Motors, Thor Industries, and Wells Fargo. Let's have a big hand for all of the sponsors. I'd also like to take a moment to acknowledge the RV Mobile Home Hall of Fame for their hospitality, and I believe you have information on the table regarding their current fundraising efforts, and I'd encourage you to spend some time reviewing that and talking to Daryl Sear if there's any interest or follow-up. In the years past, we've tried to introduce those among us who you may not know. However, it's grown to be such a large group that it's much more difficult to decide who gets introduced and who doesn't. And some of you may recall that last year I lost my list anyway. So I didn't make a list this year because everybody here is important. And that's the way we feel and we think the industry feels. So give yourselves a big hand. But I do think it's important that you understand the breadth of our attendees and where they come from, aside from those who directly or indirectly make our living from the RV business. First, I'm just going to recognize, don't anybody stand. We have staff members from the offices of Senator Donnelly, Representative Worlorski, Senator Coates, and Congressman Stutzman. We have representatives from a number of area chambers of commerces. We have one of our state senators who's retiring, Carlin Yoder. We are blessed by the attendance of many area educators, including the Chancellor of IUSB, the Executive Vice President of Notre Dame, the Vice Chancellor and Campus President of Ivy Tech. We have the Elkhart County Commissioners on hand, as well as city and town officials from throughout the county. Regarding industry associations, we have representatives from RVIA, Go RVing, RVDA, the Canadian RV Associations, IMHA, and RVIC, the Recreational Vehicle Council, and the Michigan RV Association. Plus on hand are key personnel from Elkhart's Work One office, as well as Elkhart County's Economic Development Corporation. And a most special guest today, who's not arrived yet, will be here shortly, is our Lieutenant Governor, Eric Holcomb. And I don't want to forget, and she's not here yet either, but I would let's recognize when she does arrive, Indiana's First Lady, Karen Pence. As you can tell, the audience today is not only larger, but is more diverse than it has ever been. Our industry is also more diverse than it's ever been. More and newer products to meet the needs of new league of buyers and potential buyers, and products that include up-to-date designs and technology, yet offer our users the very best in simplicity so that they may continue to enjoy the wonders of our country. By any measure, now is a great time to be in the RV industry. We hope you enjoy our gathering here this morning as much or more as we enjoy the opportunity to bring it to you. First up this morning is Jeremy Stutzman, the new mayor of Goshen. Mayor Stutzman is a graduate of Goshen High School and Butler University, and prior to being elected, the mayor served 8 years on the city council and on the redevelopment commission. One of the mayor's popular quotes during the election was that it takes all of us to create a more complete city. So let's strengthen our city together. Please welcome Goshen Mayor Jeremy Stutzman.
You know, I learned something this year. I've been in office for almost a whole 4.5 months. And before you decide to run for mayor, make sure you enjoy public speaking. As we're all well aware, in the last several years, there's been some really rough times due to the recession. Unemployment jumped to almost 20%. Average wages for production workers dropped. Fast forward to today, the industry is again booming. Elkhart County is the RV capital of the world, with over 80% of all RVs produced in the United States produced right here in Elkhart County. For the 6th straight year, shipments of RVs increased over the previous years. More than 370,000 units were sent out just last year, which is the highest in a decade. The RV industry directly employs more than 30,000 people in Elkhart County. RV production accounted for $3.33 billion in 2012, which means that, $3.33 billion of Elkhart County's gross domestic product, which means that 1/3 of our gross domestic product is coming from this room. The RV industry is no doubt a powerful and important key element in the success of our county and our communities. We are coming up against growth, and we need new workers, skilled workers. More skilled workers are needed, and this presents a new challenge. Where will they live? There are 2 issues with housing today: total housing units and affordability of housing. There is a critical need for affordable housing in our communities. And affordable housing means that the households are not spending more than 30% of their annual income on housing. This standard applies to all households, regardless of income. Finding housing in Elkhart County that is affordable is becoming more difficult, and especially for those who rent. In Elkhart County, almost half of our families living in rental housing are paying more than 30% threshold. Demand is growing for all types of housing. The apartment market is tight. The current vacancy rate is 3.2%. Over the next 3 years, there is a projected there's a projected demand for 820 new market rate apartments, 1,475 new homes. Affordable housing is a public policy issue that relates directly to the ability of the RV industry to grow in Elkhart County. This is something that elected officials and business leaders need to work together to help solve. Businesses must find new ways to continue to bring up the wages of our county's workers, while government entities continue not only maintain and expand infrastructure, but also the quality of life. The communities of Elkhart County have committed to working together to create a better quality of life in our county. We are doing this through the Vibrant Communities Initiative. And Vibrant Communities is receiving a huge jumpstart with the addition of the Governor's Regional Cities program, which we will see many exciting and great projects benefit from. If we can successfully bring our government entities, business and residential communities, and our industries together, we can continue to solve the problems that develop from growth and continue to thrive as a true economic engine for this country. I am looking forward to working with all of you as we watch our communities grow and prosper. I appreciate your continued innovation and your persistent efforts in helping to build our communities and keep them growing. Thank you very much.
We good? Oh, there we are. Thanks, Mayor Stutzman. Appreciate those comments. And for those of you who are speaking, and I apologize to Mayor Stutzman, you have to be relatively close to the microphone or it doesn't pick up. Next, I'd like to welcome the new Elkhart Mayor, Tim Neese. Mayor Neese is a graduate of Ball State University, a former Elkhart County or City's councilman, and a 12-year member of the Indiana House of Representatives. The mayor is the recipient of the Sagamore of the Wabash Award and, most importantly, has been an instructor in the Rick Mount Basketball Shooting School. Please welcome Elkhart Mayor Tim Neese.
Good morning. If my wife hears another story about Rick Mount, she's going to leave me. I appreciate the opportunity to be here. As mayor of the city of Elkhart, I want to welcome all of you to the Recreational Vehicle Manufactured Housing Hall of Fame Museum in Northern Indiana Manufactured Event Center. When I was asked to be here, it was asked of me, they wanted someone that would be brief, without much substance, and would leave you with absolutely no positive impression, and that it was thought that I would do a pretty good job. Now, last year, like many of you, I was here. One big difference is I was walking around with a couple of coffee pots saying regular decaf, and today I'm here at the podium. So only in America could that happen. It's great to see so many of you here today to evaluate the RV industry and to look ahead to the future. And what better place than to be here in Elkhart County, the powerhouse of the RV industry. I think we're all familiar with the statistic that over 85% of RVs in Northern America are built right here in Elkhart County. That's quite a statistic. When the recession hit, the RV business was greatly impacted. Because so many residents of our community work in that business, the strength of the economy ebbs and flows with the strength of the industry. In being here today, I want those who work in the RV industry to know that as mayor, they will have my unwavering support, and I have the confidence that everyone here locally will continue to work. I am grateful for this opportunity and hope that the first of many times in my administration I have an opportunity to interact with you. I want you to know that I welcome your input with regard to not only the RV industry, but anything as it pertains to economic development, And I also welcome your input. If I'm doing a bad job, I want you to tell me that too. With that, thank you very much.
Thank you, Mayor. Next up this morning is the federal government section of the program, including Indiana Representative Jackie Walorski, U.S. Senator from Iowa Joni Ernst, and the U.S. Senator from Indiana Joe Donnelly. To monitor that section, I would like to introduce B.J. Thompson, President of B.J. Thompson and Associates, and a longtime RVI board member and activist, to be our host. Please welcome B.J. Thompson.
Good morning. Happy to see all of you and so many friends turn out this morning. Glad to have Sherman here finally, after being stuck in traffic and not being here until almost the starting moment. So, nice going, Sherman. I have the privilege of introducing Congresswoman Walorski's presentation, and also Senator Joni Ernst's. And then we're going to be going live with a video conference with DC, and I think that we're trying to make that connection right now behind the Wizard's curtain. And then we'll be talking with Senator Donnelly. Thank you. It looks like we're connected. First, I want to. Oh, okay. And then we're going to be going live with a video conference. Governor and Mrs. Pence and Lieutenant Governor Holcomb. That seems impromptu, but we actually were running a little ahead of schedule, so we need to kill some time. It's good to see you. Welcome. I wanted to, before we get into these next presentations, I wanted to make a mention briefly of the RV caucuses. How many of you know that there is such a thing as a United States House of Representatives RV caucus? About what I thought and what we had been getting an indication. How many of you know that there is a United States Senate RV caucus? About the same number. How many of you know that there is an RV caucus of the International World Congress? Thank you, because there is not. I don't even know what an International World Congress is. But I'm glad that you're paying attention. A few years ago, RVIA, and I've been very involved in it because I'm chairman of the grassroots subcommittee at RVIA. And it's been a real pleasure to get involved with that. But a congressional caucus is also known as a congressional member organization, and it's a group of members of the United States Congress that meets to pursue common legislative objectives. And there are over 300 caucuses that are recognized by Congress as official member organizations. About 3 years ago, RVIA is also known as the Congressional Member Organization, a group of members of the United States worked with representatives who formed a House caucus. And Congresswoman Walorski was kind enough to help us spearhead that and become co-chair, and we have gone on. Absolutely. Thank you. And then a year later, which was just 2 years ago, we have now 3 years under our belt as an industry with congressional caucuses that we have formed then, especially with Senator Donnelly's help, to co-chair, spearhead on the Senate side, the Senate RV caucus. So absolutely. So we're very happy to have those two caucuses working on our behalf. The first presentation comes from Congresswoman Walorski, who we had hoped to do a live video conference with, but we had some problems right at the end, and so she was gracious enough to tape a video for us. And so if we can roll Congresswoman Walorski's video, that would be great.
Hi, I'm Congresswoman Jackie Walorski. I wish I could be there with you this morning at the RV Industry Power Breakfast, but I want you to know how grateful I am to represent the RV capital of the world in Congress. In northern Indiana, Hoosiers are proud to be at the center of this powerful industry that continues to manufacture quality products, create good jobs, and play an essential role in American tourism. That's why a few years ago I helped create the House RV Caucus to educate members of Congress on issues that impact the recreational vehicle industry and to highlight the importance of RVs to the tourism industry and our nation's economy. With this caucus, we're making sure the RV industry's voices are heard in Washington so this great American tradition can continue to thrive. Over 80% of North America's RVs are built in Elkhart and LaGrange counties. Hoosiers and families depend on this industry's innovation and growth. I want to thank you so much, the Recreational Vehicle Industry Association, for working with me alongside the House RV Caucus and keeping this industry relevant and at the forefront of new products and technologies that create more Hoosier jobs. Earlier this year, we worked together to prevent a potentially disastrous regulation proposed by the Department of Housing and Urban Development. HUD's policy would have changed how certain RVs are measured, creating widespread uncertainty for RV manufacturers and owners. So we worked to get HUD to set a bright line distinction between housing and recreational vehicles so HUD can't regulate RVs. Rest assured, I'll continue to fight any attempt by this government agency to expand their reach into Elkhart County. I'll also keep fighting for Hoosiers in Congress to ensure the economic security of our country, to defend our national security from threats both at home and abroad, and to protect our veterans. Thanks so much again for inviting me to speak to you all this morning, and thank you for all you do to keep this great American industry growing, innovating, and creating jobs for Hoosiers. It's a great privilege to represent Indiana's 2nd Congressional District and the RV capital of the world in Congress. Fighting for Hoosiers in Congress to ensure the economic security of our country, to defend our national security from threats both at home and abroad, and to protect our veterans. Thanks so much again for inviting me to speak to you all this morning, and thank you for all you do to keep this great American industry growing, innovating, and creating jobs for Hoosiers. It's a great privilege to represent Indiana's 2nd Congressional District and the RV capital of the world in Congress.
Senator Ernst, and Marlon Stutzman was also on board with providing quite a bit of help with that. They were champions for the industry, and we really appreciate their help. formed the House caucus, and we're still developing it by asking other legislators to come on board as members of the caucus. We started to form the Senate side. As I mentioned, Senator Donnelly ran point on that for us. And then we needed another co-chair on the other side of the aisle. And we approached Senator Joni Ernst from Iowa. Of course, with our friends at Winnebago in Iowa, she thought that would be a good idea. And they have just been very cooperative and very helpful. I've been personally in contact with their office on several occasions. And they're great people to work with. So we're really happy to have Senator Joni Ernst on board as a co-chair on the Senate side of RV caucus, representing us on RV issues. And we do have a video from Senator Ernst. So we can roll that video, please.
Good morning to all of you participating in the 4th annual RV Industry Power Breakfast. I'm sorry that I could not join you in person, but wanted to say hello. My name is Joni Ernst, and I have the pleasure of representing not only Iowa in the U.S. Senate, but the most recognized name in motorhomes, Winnebago. I thank them for being here today and employing over 2,500 people in Iowa and across the country. You make Forest City proud. In Washington, it's great to work with Senator Donnelly as leaders of the Senate RV caucus to help educate our colleagues about the industry, the work you do, and challenges you and your customers face. You know, this industry is truly an American one. We like to get out on the road and explore this great country of ours. Whether it's the driving up to one of our beautiful lakes in Iowa for the weekend, or even maybe taking in a race at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway, RVs are one of the best ways families can make those kinds of trips together. And that's what RVs are really all about, providing families with a variety of options that are right for their budget and needs so they can grow closer together while away from home. Thank you for the work you do, and God bless the great United States of America that you help people explore every single day.
Perhaps go to our next presentation, the keynote.
Thank you, BJ, and thanks to Congresswoman Walorski and Senator Ernst for their involvement in our industry. Take just a moment again, even though we did this when they entered, I'd like to take a moment and have Eric Holcomb stand and be recognized. Eric, our Lieutenant Governor. As well as Indiana's First Lady, Karen Pence. Karen, would you stand, please? This year, we couldn't be happier about welcoming Indiana's Governor Mike Pence as our guest and featured speaker. Governor Pence was born in Columbus, Indiana. He is a graduate of Hanover College and the law school at Indiana University. The governor has served as Indiana's 50th governor since 2013 and is running for his second term in this fall's election. He previously served as Indiana's 6th Congressional District from 2001 to 2013, when he was sworn in as governor of the state of Indiana. During his tenure in Congress, he was the chairman of the Republican Conference from 2009 to 2011. Governor Pence is committed to guiding Indiana on a pathway to success through fiscal responsibility, economic development, and educational opportunities. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Indiana's 50th governor, Mr. Mike Pence.
Thank you. Good morning. Thank you, Greg, for the wonderful, warm introduction. Thank you all for being here at this incredible Power Breakfast. It is exciting for me and our still new Lieutenant Governor to be here. I thank you for, Greg, thanks for singling out the Lieutenant Governor. I'm so blessed in my first 3 years to have one of the most dynamic Lieutenant Governors in the United States of America, and Sue Ellspermann. I'm hopeful that she'll be leading one of the critical institutions of higher education in the state of Indiana. But to fill those shoes, we look to someone who's always answered the call of this country, whether it was when he enlisted in the Navy at a time of war, or served members of the House and the Senate, served 2 governors. Let me just say publicly again how grateful I am that Eric Holcomb has answered the call of Indiana again, and he's working his heart out for Hoosiers. I can promise you that. Thanks so much, pal. It's great to be with you this morning. To all of those who are with us today, BJ, great to be with you today. I thought that was really good impromptu change up in the schedule. That was pretty smooth. I live in the world of technical challenges, so I thought that was great. BJ is a great champion of this industry. And to Sherman Goldenberg and to all of you who are here today, I'm truly grateful. I know you got to have a great program before you. Mayor Neese, it's great to be with you, and Mayor Stutzman, thank you so much. You got some great speakers, including the 2 distinguished leaders in industry that are going to be in these 2 chairs later. But I'm grateful to be able to be with you all today and to be able to share my excitement about the RV industry in the state of Indiana. I have to tell you, though, when Karen and I walked in, I was a little overwhelmed, as at the size of the crowd. I mean, to be honest with you, I'm not used to crowds really this big. I was in Rushville not too long ago. I came running up to an event, arrived a little bit late like we did this morning, and I ran up to the steps of the auditorium, and my host looked at me, and I looked past him, and there were about 5 people on the front row waiting for my speech, and I said, "Did you see there's just 5 people in there for my speech?" He said, yes, sir, I've seen that." And I said, "Well, didn't you tell him I was the speaker?" And he said, "No, but I'm going to find out who did." So so thanks so much for coming, even if you knew who the speaker was this morning. And it's really great to be with you all, and some key friends in the General Assembly who I'll mention in a minute. In addition to my Lieutenant Governor, my partner in life, the greatest blessing of my life, our verse this morning, we try and look at a little passage of Scripture as a family every day, just happened to be Proverbs 31. I will tell you that on Mother's Day this last Sunday, I actually bought a card that I read through kind of quickly, and then as I was scanning it after I paid for it, it said, being a mother is not about being perfect. It's about right? I went back and bought another card because this woman is perfect as a mother of 3, our son, the Marine, our daughter who will graduate from college in 2 weeks, and she just is the most devoted First Lady in the United States of America. So thank you so much for welcoming my wonderful wife, Karen. And what an exciting time to be here and be a part of this industry. Indiana is on a roll. Indiana's on the road to success, and the RV industry is leading the way in Indiana to a more prosperous future. And I really want to congratulate all of you. I ripped some headlines out. It's incredible. RV industry wraps up best year in a decade, highest shipments since 2006, 81% of all RVs shipped each year being made right here in the state of Indiana that we all celebrate. And the storied history is what I really get into. You know, Greg mentioned that I went to Hanover College. I got a degree in American history, which qualified me for a job at Hanover College. Right after I graduated, but I've just got a passion. I've got a passion for history. I really do. And when you think about the history of this state in our bicentennial year, a year that also happens to coincide with the 100th running of the greatest spectacle in racing that'll be just happening in a few short weeks. Apparently no race fans in the room. I'm kind of startled by that. But you think about the history of this industry. You think about the history of this industry going back, my guys did the research. They said the 1930s, the RV industry got started in the state of Indiana. But I got to tell you, a little bit later today, with a lot of folks that have been involved in this great regional cities initiative across north central Indiana, we're gonna dedicate the renovation of a new technology center at the old Studebaker plant. And it's going to be very exciting. Hope you see a little bit of it on the news. But in preparing for that, I learned that Clem and Henry Studebaker, when they started their business in the 1880s right on the St. Joseph River, actually they were manufacturing wagons, right? And at that time of Go West, young men, right, the statistics and history records that 1/2 of the wagons heading west were Studebakers made in Indiana. I think those qualify as RVs, okay? So we go all the way back to the 1800s. Am I right? And Carlin, I'm not stretching on that because I've been to the RV Hall of Fame. There's a chuck wagon there, okay? Let's go ahead and plant that flag. But it's incredible to think about this industry and its modern iteration. Late 1940s, national press already branded Elkhart, Tim, as the trailer capital of the world. By 1949, there were 100 companies building trailers in Elkhart County, and today, even with the consolidations, it's 660 RV manufacturers growing and thriving right here in the heart of the heartland. And it really is, it's really exciting at a time in the life of our state when Indiana exports $33 million of goods around the world just last year alone. I have to tell you that this industry, and I got snagged on that. My staff put that number in there. I think it's a lot larger, but I'll check later. 80% of the world's RV production based in the state of Indiana, and us being at a 39-year level of peak production is just absolutely incredible. The numbers this year, give yourselves a round of applause, 67,455 units shipped in the first 2 months of 2016. Man, that is an industry that is on fire. Wow. Wow. That is incredible. The tremendous amount of industry and hard work and craftsmanship being poured into this industry that's benefiting the world in not only economic terms, but in ways that I'll mention before I close that are even more meaningful. In fact, I will tell you, I love talking about the RV industry. You know, it doesn't say it in the Indiana Constitution, but I am the salesman in chief of Indiana, right? Which means I travel around the United States and a little bit around the world. I think, Karen, it was about this time last year we were in China, our first trip to China, and with a lot of help from the team here and this great industry and BJ and the guys. We actually hosted, and about this many people showed up. We hosted a reception at the American Embassy in Beijing, and we had Indiana RVs on the plaza on display, and they are and the Chinese people and Chinese industry, people in the park service there that's just getting started, all packed the place. It was an exciting day in Beijing to celebrate the RV industry in the state of Indiana. And I promise you, as your governor, if I get a 4-year contract extension like Chuck Pagano got at the Colts, we're going to double down and take the story of the RV industry all over the world. That's my pledge to each and every one of you. Wow. Indiana's GDP is growing at a rate that's, by some estimates, nearly double the national average. Exports in Indiana-made manufactured goods have risen over the past 15 years by 177%, and you all are a big, big part of that. It really is true that the RV industry is leading the way. In fact, I'll have another announcement today. Another great company in the family of companies represented here, Grand Design, is going to be expanding again for the third time in just about as many years, and we're truly grateful for the investment. I'm one of those people that really does believe that government doesn't create jobs. People in public life, thank you very much. A lot of times people in politics talk that way. People in politics talk about, I've created jobs. I grew up in a small business family. I don't ever remember a bureaucrat coming in and creating a job. It's usually the other way around, right? But government can create the conditions where men and women of industry and enterprise and capital and creativity can put that capital at risk and create jobs and opportunities for Hoosiers. And that's what each and every one of you have been doing. And so I just want to speak this morning in the time I have remaining about the role, I think, that the policies that Indiana's been pursuing have played in not just the recovery in recent years, but in the long-term strength of this industry and what we have in mind for a vision that will continue to sustain not only Indiana as the RV capital of the world, but this as a dynamic and growing and innovative company. I truly do believe there's three things that make a difference. Policies, pavement, and people, okay? 3 Ps. I worked on that all morning. I thought that was policies, pavement, and people, all right? Stay with me. So I've got Matt Miller sitting next to me there, and he said to me, knock them dead. I said, this early, they might already be. Policies, pavement, and people. The state of Indiana has been on a pathway pursuing policies that I believe have contributed over the last 12 years to the fact that we're now at record employment. It's incredible to think in our bicentennial year, we now have more Hoosiers going to work than ever before in the 200-year history of the state of Indiana. It's incredible. It's credit to all of you. And how have we done that? It's those policies are just common sense policies, all right? You live within your means, you balance your budget, you let people keep more of what they earn, you make the right investments in education and in infrastructure and all the kind of things that will sustain growth. You take 3 steps back and you let the people of Indiana do what they do, right? And that's create jobs and opportunity and prosperity. From my very first day in office, building on the extraordinary record of my predecessor, Governor Mitch Daniels, who put our fiscal house in order and set Indiana on a pathway of education, innovation, and infrastructure reform. We cut taxes across the board. We lowered the income tax, lowered the corporate tax. We ended death taxes once and for all. Death is no longer a taxable event in the state of Indiana, okay? We've actually cut taxes every year for the last 4 years. And in the midst of that, though, the last budget I signed had the largest increase in education funding in Indiana history in a single budget, okay? We not only increased traditional K-12 education, we expanded opportunities for disadvantaged kids for early childhood education in this state. And what I'm probably most passionate about in the policy arena is the fact that $50 million was increased in this last budget for career and vocational education. I truly do believe, thanks to the tremendous leadership of Senator Carlin Yoder in particular, who rolled his sleeves up, and Representative Doug Miller, Indiana has now become the first state in America to make career and vocational education a priority in every high school in our state again. And I want to thank these great legislators for the great job that they did. That's right. And my passion for this came, when I was applying for this job for the first time. I traveled all over the state of Indiana. And unemployment then was over 8%. It's 5% now. But I thought with unemployment over 8%, with the struggles that we'd faced in our economy, I honestly thought that I'd see a lot of help, a lot of no jobs available signs. But about as often as I'd walk into businesses that weren't hiring, I'd walk into businesses that would say to me, we can't find people to fill the jobs that we have. And so when I ran for this job, I actually said, look, I believe that all honest work is honorable work. And I think our high schools ought to work just as well for our kids that want to go get a job as they do for our kids that want to go off to college right away. okay? Now, I grew up in a family. My grandfather immigrated to this country. My dad was the first person in his family to graduate from college. I don't remember a day in my youth where me and my 3 brothers and 2 sisters didn't get my dad's finger in our chest and said, whatever else you're doing, you're going to college, right? And I think every child, regardless of the circumstances they grow up in, ought to hear that over and over again. But in the same breath, we ought to be willing to say to our kids, if you want to go to work at one of the good-paying jobs and great companies right here in Elkhart County, our high school is going to create pathways for you to do that as well, okay? And so we went to work on this, didn't we, Carlin? We rolled our sleeves up. We created the Career Council. We created regional works councils, and it all culminated in the changes in the funding formula for our schools. This is my big thing for you, I want to tell you. And you can talk to these mayors about it. Go sit down with your local school corporation if you haven't done it yet. But Elkhart's been on the leading edge of this for a number of years, just doing it on your own. But now schools have a financial incentive to align career and vocational courses at the high school with the jobs and opportunities that are available in this community. It's the first time ever. It's the first time it's been done in the country. In fact, when a student will get a job in their community that is in the area that they concentrated or got an industry certification, the school actually gets a bonus from the state of Indiana. Okay, we're creating an incentive structure for our schools to partner with your company. So I really want you to leave here this morning and say, you know what, and call up your local superintendent or your principal and say, you know, I heard Mike at the Power Breakfast and he said something about a new school formula. And what are you doing in, they call it the CTE courses, Career Technical Education. What are you doing in your CTE courses here? How could we help you make sure that young people that might want to come to work at my company in this area can get some or maybe all of what they need to be able to walk in the door and get started. It's really incredibly exciting, and it's transformational. So those are some of the policies that we've been doing. It's tax relief, it's innovation in education, but it's also, I said it's policies, it is pavement. You know, the truth is, in the last administration, Governor Daniels found a way to come up with about $4 billion without raising taxes. Since we came into office through this last budget, we've invested $2.5 billion in infrastructure in this state. We've been able over the last 12 years to go well on our way to almost completing projects that had just been dreamt of before. I mean, anybody driven to Indianapolis recently? I mean, how about US 31 from South Bend to Indianapolis? What about that? Huh? And let me tell you what, you're out for a Sunday drive, just keep going south, because I-69 to Evansville will knock your socks off too. I mean, it's really incredible. I mean, from Bloomington to Evansville now is 4-lane interstate, and frankly, it's some of the most scenic interstate you will ever drive on in your life. Make a pit stop before you go south of Bloomington currently. Some people have said to me, Mike, how about one restroom? I got a big kick out of the fact when we opened it, I had Lieutenant Governor Becky Skillman with me in the truck when we broke the ribbon on the new leg of I-69. And we're going to finish I-69 all the way to Indianapolis on my watch, I promise you that. But we broke the ribbon and we're rolling down, and it was a great stretch of road. But I saw somebody about a week later, because it got a lot of press down there. Everybody was excited. I ran into somebody and they said, Mike, I went out and did a little bit of stretch of that road. They said, man, that weekend, he said, there must have been a state trooper pulling somebody over about every 2 miles on that interstate. And I said, well, how do you think we're going to pay for that thing? I mean, you know. Truth is, we've been able to invest more than $6 billion in infrastructure in this state, in the state of Indiana, $100 million more when we brought the toll road back through a reorganization bankruptcy. I hope you caught that. $100 million more of their money, the largest infrastructure improvement investment in the Indiana toll road since it was built, and we did it all without raising taxes on the people of Indiana. That really is a record on infrastructure anywhere in the country. I mean, I know you build these beautiful machines, but you know, it takes the infrastructure, it takes the policies in place to be able to have a business climate, to be able to create the products that's competitive, and also to roll those things all over the country and all over the world. I get it. The last element of this is people. That's my last P on the list. Policies, pavement, and people. I promise you we're going to keep the policies of fiscal responsibility, pro-growth policies, the right investments in education. It's pavement. We're going to keep working that infrastructure thing. We're going to stay the crossroads of America until every road leads to Indiana, okay? I mean, there may be a realtor in the room, possibly. And these realtors love to say location, location, location. I mean, other than having the greatest people on earth, right? Our greatest asset is we're in the middle of everywhere. I'll never forget, I was talking to some guy back when I worked on the East Coast in Washington, D.C. A guy looked at me one time, bumped into me, and he said, "You're from Indiana?" And I said, "Yeah." And he goes, "Man, that's out in the middle of nowhere." And I said, "Dude, it's in the middle of everywhere, right?" Can I get some applause for that? I mean, we are in the middle of everywhere in this country. That's why our economy is exploding. But the last piece is the people. Really and truly, and I talked about the education element. We all understand that. But this regional cities initiative, that we've got so many leaders here today, these mayors have been so terrific on, is an idea that was really born as we were asking the question, in a growing Indiana economy, how can we create policies that will result in retaining and attracting the workforce that we need for the future? Because the truth of the matter is, and I see a lot of bright young people in the room here today, and good morning to you. The truth of the matter is that they tell us that people in the younger generation today first decide where they want to live, and then they decide what they want to do for a living. Truthfully, we have, my kids are all over the place. My son is stationed in Pensacola. I got one daughter in Boston. I got one daughter in Chicago, and I'm just saying, please, somebody come back here and have some grandkids. That's all I'm saying, right? So the quality, they call it quality of place, right? It's a focal point. And communities like South Bend and Elkhart and Mishawaka have all been thinking about this for a time. But what we did was we looked around the country and we saw that there were some areas that had some exponential growth, and it was areas that had begun to think in those terms on a regional basis. Okay? Are you with me? Now, I grew up in southern Indiana, so I know something about competition between counties, right? Single-class basketball. Right? Jackson County, Shelby County, those are down there. So getting people to work across county lines, sometimes a little bit challenging, still is in Indiana, let alone work outside the city and work with the whole county as a whole, right? What we did with the Regional Cities Initiative is we leveraged some tax amnesty dollars, about $126 million, and we challenged communities around the state to begin to think and plan regionally, in some cases for the very first time. And the response was overwhelming. We had 7 regions of the state that came up with projects, some $2 billion in public and private projects leveraged by just that $126 million in public funding. And I got to tell you, North Central Indiana, give the team that brought that one home to North Central Indiana a big round of applause. I see Notre Dame is here. I see communities are here. That was a huge win, and we're going to celebrate it even again today. Thank you, John. But I want to make it very clear to you, that's a workforce play, okay? When a lot of people, and particularly the way the press has reported on the Regional Cities Initiative, they often talk about it like bricks and mortar, and it's, just improving main streets, improving riverfronts, and, taking like the Studebaker factory and turning it into a global technology center. But really, it's a workforce play. What we've asked people to do is how do we make investments, strategic investments on a regional basis that will improve the quality of life in this region and make it more possible for more young people to stay here and to move here. And Indiana's workforce is growing. In the last year alone, our workforce grew by some 60,000 people coming into our economy and some coming into our state. And I'm saying not just from Illinois. Okay? I can't do a speech without at least one shot. Okay? But our workforce is growing. But I really do believe in our third century to achieve our full potential, we've got to lean into all these efforts with regard to education, from early childhood education through career and technical education to supporting the greatest system. Do we not have the greatest higher education system in the United States of America, in private universities and colleges? And you can give them all a round of applause. I mean, where else do you have a Purdue, a Notre Dame, a Goshen, a Hanover, right? I mean, it's just an incredible system of higher education. We sustain all of that, but improving the quality of life in all of these communities is going to be a play. So I'm going to get out of the way and let you get back to your program, but I just want to say thanks. I want to say thank you for being an industry of such accomplishment. It is humbling for me to stand in front of men and women who have demonstrated their worth and their character and their resilience through difficult times. I mean, I go back to those. I go back to the headlines where I started. Highest shipments since 2006, ramping up the best year in a decade. The record numbers of production are all a testament to your character, to your industry, and to the outstanding men and women who bring their incredible craftsmanship into your businesses each and every day. I mean, I have to tell you, when I look at your products, I'm proud as a governor in two ways. Number one, I'm always amazed at the excellence of the products. I mean, you all make stuff that rolls around, on the highways and byways of Indiana that's nicer than where I live. Okay. I mean, really, it is breathtaking, and you see the growth in this industry because more and more people are stepping in and looking at an RV for the first time and walking in and seeing, this isn't your grandfather's RV. This is you can literally pull up stakes and take a home and anywhere in the country and enjoy the most beautiful nation on earth and this extraordinary park system, or just go out and see America or see the world. And so I'm always proud and impressed when I think of the hands that create products of such excellence in the state of Indiana. How about a round of applause for the men and women who build these incredible vehicles in Indiana? But the last thing, I like to tell people, I'm governor of the state of Indiana. I'll never have a higher honor in my life, I promise you, than being governor of the state that I love. But it's not the highest office I hold, right? I mean, the highest office I hold is DAD, right? I mean, it took Karen and me a while to get our family started, and we weren't real sure the Lord was ever gonna have our kids come along. And when they came along, they came along fast, didn't they, Mom? It was like 3 and 4 years. A little strong, but we yeah, but we're all about family. If you know the Pences at all, we're just all about family. I mean, we're constantly, I'm so thankful for texting and, all the social media. We stay up with our kids constantly, even though they're far-flung all across the country. We're constantly praying for things, challenges that they're facing, and they're constantly commenting on Dad's politics. You know how that goes in a family. But the reality is, when I think about the greatest contribution that you all talk about, and you all and that you all celebrate, I think of what you do for families. One of the things that we did as a family was each and every year, when our children, from the time that they really were old enough to begin to enjoy it, we'd always go find either a state park or a national park on vacation. I mean, we've been to Yosemite, we've been to Yellowstone, we've been to Grand Canyon, we've been everywhere, because we wanted our children to see and experience the extraordinary natural beauty of the United States of America, and to really celebrate that heritage. And so when I think about the greatest contribution that the RV industry that we celebrate at this great third annual Power Breakfast makes, I think of the way that you bring families together. There's something about hitting the road. There's something about going somewhere special and magical. There's something about making memories that really is the glue of families, isn't it? I mean, we've got a wall at the governor's residence in our kitchen upstairs. We're kind of like the old grocery store owner. Downstairs is formal, and we kind of live above the store. You know what I'm talking about? That's an apartment that we have at the governor's residence. And on the wall there, we do, don't we? We've got picture montages of all those vacations. There's not a morning goes by I'm not looking over my materials, reading a newspaper, that I don't glance at the wall and see a picture from one of those great vacations, and it just touches my heart, because I know in those moments we were pouring cement into our children's lives, into our relationships, and so thank you. So thank you for what you're doing to make Indiana such a dynamic place and a dynamic economy. Thank you for the jobs and opportunities you're creating here in Elkhart and all across north central Indiana, and the futures that are unfolding as a result of that. But as your governor, just thank you for the excellence, the craftsmanship, and the way that you make memories happen and make families stronger. God bless this industry with so much more in our third century. Thank you all very much.
You know, I was going to get the cowbell out, but the governor was so good and had so many great things to say that I couldn't bring myself to cowbell him. Anyway, Governor, it was wonderful. Karen, thank you so much for being here. Eric, thank you for your time this morning. Travel safely, please. Thank you. Because of the technical difficulties, we got out of line. We're going to go to break now. We will visit with Senator Donnelly when we come back. Please try to keep the break to 10 minutes if you can. When you hear the cowbell, come back in. Thank you. Thank you. Let's try to get ourselves in our seats and get back started. All right, ladies and gentlemen, we're ready to start the second half of this morning's RV Power Breakfast. We have the connection made with Washington, D.C., so I'd like to bring BJ back up and bring you Senator Donnelly.
Just a minute before we do that, I wanted to share with you a photo that the governor reminded me of. And I started in the industry with Holiday Rambler at their truck camper plant when they made truck campers in Napanee in 1969. I started when I was 12. And here on the screen you see a picture of the governor and myself. This was just last year, but we're in front of a 1969 Holiday Rambler truck camper. I started in '69 at Holiday Rambler truck camper plant, and so when we were touring a while back, I asked him for a picture. So we're making some connection there. I just wanted to share that little reminiscing. We just happened to think about that just a few minutes ago, and the techies were able to pull that up, so we appreciate that. We're going to move on, if we can, Melky and Dave, to the... Thank you. Are we connected with D.C.? Okay, thank you. Senator Donnelly.
You.
Good morning.
So if I could just say before you say anything that there's also a picture of you and I as well. Unfortunately, it's on a pontoon boat in the St. Joe River drinking beer.
There are some things that we don't show, Joe. And I might also say that it is acceptable to have an unexpressed thought.
I will keep that in mind.
Well, most of you are well familiar with Senator Donnelly. And he has long been a friend of the RV industry. I love to introduce him as a friend of the RV industry because that's what he is. And he has been supportive of us, and we've had to go to him and ask him for his help. And sometimes it's been easy, sometimes it's been pretty tough. But he's stepped up, and his staff has stepped up. And by the way, Haj Patel and Lauren Varga from Senator Donnelly's office is with us today, so we're happy to have them join us too. A while back, I mentioned to you just a few minutes ago about the RV caucuses. I mentioned the Senate RV caucus, and that I personally had approached Senator Donnelly, and he was very gracious to lend his ear and to listen to what we were asking for. And it took just a few minutes for him to say absolutely he's going to help us by stepping up and co-chairing the Senate RV caucus. And since then, we've had a few issues that we needed to address, and so I want to publicly, as I have already expressed our appreciation Senator, for all your help with the caucus and with those issues. There's something you'd like to say about that?
Yes, one of the greatest parts of the caucus is that it's completely bipartisan. So I do this with Joni Ernst. She and I work together. She's the senator from Iowa. And we sit down regularly, talk about RV issues, talk about the challenges that are faced. And then, for instance, on things like the park model exemption or the Luan exemption, we work together with the USTR, for instance, in the Luan, or on the park model with HUD. And so this is not a Republican or Democrat. This is an American economy issue. And that's what we try to work on every single day. It enables us to coordinate with you on a regular basis so that we hear from all the great minds in the industry about the challenges you face, about where we can help, about where we can make sure that regulations are changed so that it's not as burdensome. And so it's a very, very much front of the windshield view of the RVs and working specifically on these issues and trying to make sure. One of the great things we do is have the RVs out here every year, motorhomes, fifth wheels, so that people have a chance to see them. Other senators have a chance. You entice them with Eskimo pie. I entice them with helping them with another vote, and we pile everybody into the RVs. And so everybody understands the product, understands the importance. I talk about jobs and how many are provided. When you go into a supermarket in Elkhart or anywhere in Indiana, and you see somebody buying food there, they may have gotten their paycheck from the RV place. And then the person in the supermarket goes and may buy a TV at Best Buy or something or somewhere else. And so the RV economy drives our economy in the northern Indiana region, and it makes everything else possible. And we want to make sure we're a good voice for you out here.
Perhaps if you could give us a report on some general issues, a current events report, if you will, from Washington. What's happening?
Sure. Well, what I'll talk about first is the park model and fifth wheel RV exemption in regards to the Housing and Urban, the HUD department. We're working nonstop with them, trying to make sure they understand these should be exempted. And we've asked them to follow the MHCC guidelines. Dan Coates and I have worked together on that, along with Joni Ernst. And so we are trying to make sure that we get that put in place. For instance, on another issue, Luan, we have the GSPs. The GSPs have started again, generalized system of preferences. And we're working to get Luan in so we can have lower tariffs, which make it so that we'll be able to have more people working, more shipments made, more product made. And these are the kind of things we're working on in regards to specific RV issues. Personally, and by the way, I should mention, my wife Jill told me if I do not mention Carrie's name here today, that she will never speak to me again. So to Carrie, the better half of BJ, we want to say hello as well. And also, I want to welcome, I understand the governor and and the first lady are there. Welcome aboard, and the lieutenant governor as well. My only question, and you can ask them, BJ, is did they drive up in a motorhome, and are they going home in a motorhome? And finally, if they didn't drive up in a motorhome, will they be driving home in a motorhome? The other thing I wanted to mention is I serve in the banking committee as well. And what I take very, very seriously as a responsibility is to make sure we don't find ourselves in the same kind of tough economic conditions we found in 08 and 09. And so in effect, it's almost a constant review of what's the worst that can possibly happen. How do we avoid it? How do we not get in that kind of situation again? So I really, really focus on safety and stability, because when we have those in place, the RV industry will have extraordinary years. I think you shipped around 374,000 units last year. When we have safety and stability in place, the entrepreneurial spirit, the creativity, the American get up and go that we have in our industry will guarantee success. And so my job is to try to make sure that those other things are in place to stay out of your way and to enable you to really let it rip.
Great. Now, I understand you're a member of the Senate Armed Services Committee, and you're about ready to enter into a meeting with them in just a couple of minutes, so we have to keep this short. Is there something there that we need to know about? What's happening?
Well, let me tell you just a quick story. I was in Iraq last month, and we sat with some of the Sunni tribal leaders out in western Iraq near the Syrian border. And when we were talking with them, they said their biggest challenge were the leaders in Baghdad, another religious sect, and the leaders in northern Iraq. And they said, here's what we always know, that your young men and women are the people we count on every single day, are the ones that we know when they tell us something is true, when they say they're going to do something, they do it. And our best friends are the American men and women who serve your country and our country. And so that's our people in Indiana. That's our National Guard. That's our men and women who serve in the Army, the Navy, the Air Force, the Marines, the Coast Guard, who do such an amazing, amazing job. And I'll finish with this. I was out also on the aircraft carrier, Harry Truman, out off the coast of Iran and the Arabian Gulf, and met with a bunch of Hoosiers. One was an F-18 fighter pilot from Plymouth, so not far away at all. And when I was meeting with them, a young lady was there who was working in the post office. She was from Gary, Indiana, finished high school there. And the pilot said to her, he said, if you're not there working on delivering the mail every day, my family can't talk to me, and this ship doesn't work. That's the teamwork we have where everybody counts and everybody's important.
Thank you. That's great. In closing, is there anything you want to say about the current political environment heading into the conventions? Maybe?
Sure. Can you clear Mike Pence out of the room first? I'm just kidding, Mike. No worries, Governor. I actually think that, on a presidential level, I think it's going to be very close. And I think if you get in an RV and you head from Pennsylvania and go across and touch Ohio and Michigan, I think Indiana may not be 1 or 2 points, but will be fairly close. And if you go to Iowa and Wisconsin, there's your race. So tell me who wins those states. That's the president of the United States. And I think either way, though, and as Governor Pence knows, this is the genius of our system, that whoever is president, we have so many other people in place as well to make sure we protect this nation, to protect this republic, that I actually expect continued economic growth. I think Indiana is going to have strong economic growth. I think the governor will tell you that. I think we'll have strong economic growth. I think the country will. Our national parks are cleaner, safer, better than ever for traveling to. And so I think we're really teed up for a number of exceptional years in the RV industry. But first and foremost, because of the American spirit of everybody in that room who puts their capital on the line every day, who's been through incredibly tough times. And we all looked at each other and said, you know what, we'll just keep working until we get to the other side. And so it is the pioneers, the hard workers, the entrepreneurs in the room that make this go. And our job is to pretty much try to stay out of the way and let you take this country to the next level.
Thank you. We really appreciate your time. We know that you're on the run. Thank you to you and your staff for all the effort you put in putting this together. Go ahead.
Well, if I could just say real quick, I want to thank Hodge and Lauren who do such a great job. BJ, you are a dear, dear friend. I kidded about the pontoon boat, but every year we get a chance to be together with Carrie, who's a wonderful friend. And to the governor and the first lady and lieutenant governor, thank you so much for coming up to Elkhart for this. We appreciate your leadership and your hard work, and we do of all the elected officials there. But first and foremost, the creativity, the hard work, the daring, the spirit. That's what the RV industry is to me.
Thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, Senator Donnelly. Thank you. Doug Getter, General Manager, Forest River.
You got to be flexible when it comes to rearrangements of schedules. I thought BJ and those guys handled it real well. You know, coming in here today, I had a real unique takeaway from the governor. I grew up in Kansas. He was talking about middle of nowhere. And so a lot of people that know me, I grew up in Kansas and I ended up in Indiana. So that middle of nowhere thing, now it's middle of somewhere. I got like a little glow in my heart right now from the governor. So I just thought I'd see if you guys were all feeling a little bit of the same. What an awesome morning this morning so far. Thanks, everybody, for coming today. And thanks to the great community support that was also in evidence here Saturday night, as a lot of you were here as well. And there's a record year there in a year where records evidently are made to be broken because we're on schedule to do that. A couple of months ago, Sherm did a quick interview with a few of us at RVIA's annual meeting. And one of the questions was something along the lines of, what do you guys think is going to happen in the year ahead? And everybody had a response. My response was roughly, I think Dr. Curtin has estimated too low. And I think we've got a great shot as an industry of breaking the 400,000 unit mark in 2016. And if we don't quite make it this year, I think it's a lock for 2017. I also foolishly commented something along the lines of, I don't even think that one of the goofy candidates we're going to elect as president can screw it up. Well, as to my answer regarding the first part of that question, we're on a current pace to exceed the 400,000 unit mark, and retail and wholesale numbers right now are in sync. They're synced. So in regards to that, keep your foot on the pedal, and I think we've actually got a great shot at hitting it in 2016, and I still think if we just miss it, it's a lock for 2017. Well, as to the second part of my answer to Sherm's question, the presidential part, I think I might have another idea. What if we convinced the two guys who are going to back cleanup this morning and later close out the program to run and serve them up as a third-party RV ticket? Imagine that. Peter or Pete, Peter. There's not going to be a vice president in that administration because they're both P's. They actually get along pretty good. Peter supports pretty much a full range of Budweiser products. Pete, on the other hand, is mostly in agreement, but I personally know he's partial to Bud Light. So I think we got a good start. I think we could get him elected, take James Ashurst, BJ. They handle the PR movement. We get him into office, and the public is certainly ready for a dynamic duo and an alternative to what we've got. Now picture that first meeting as they start the problem solving for the country after they've been elected as co-presidents. Pete, what do you think we ought to do about currency manipulation and the unstable exchange rates? Well, Peter, I think we should jerk Jason Lippert and Todd Cleveland over into the public sector, start a new branch of government, and call it the acquisition branch. And instead of acquiring companies, let's just start acquiring countries. Peter, where do you think we should start? Canada seems like it makes sense to me. Going to the same currency will solve the exchange rate problem, and we can even save Wilbur Bontrager those excessive non-resident fishing license fees he's always complaining about, as well as the pat down he usually gets going through customs due to him looking a little bit questionable. I could certainly go on with some other characters in the RV industry, create more cabinet positions. I see Parrish over there. The treasury thing's starting to come to mind, but you'd have to combine it with entertainment somehow. But I'm not looking to get canned today or get a visit from the IRS, and not going to seriously get into either politics or religion. Just wanted to give you guys a little something fun to think about and imagine what could be this morning. But the only thing you could absolutely guarantee out of a P&P administration would be, I think it'd be our best shot for a balanced budget based on my difficulty in getting stoned on occasion. And I'll leave that. That's an inside one. But now back to the serious stuff this morning. This morning's next speaker is someone I'm proud to call a friend. He's a tough and respected competitor as president and chief operating officer of Jayco Inc. He's the current chairman of the board for RVIA and an all-around great guy. Please help me welcome my friend, Daryl Bontrager.
Thank you, Doug. You're always a hard act to follow. Welcome, everyone. This is just an incredible crowd here this morning, and speaks to not only your dedication to the industry, but the strength of our industry at this current moment. I learned two things this morning. First, BJ, I didn't know that you and I were the same age. I was 12 in 1969 also. So, I guess we'll call it clean living. And I also figured out that we need more women in this industry. The line at the men's room was incredibly long, and there was no line in the women's, so. But for reasons beyond that, we do need more women in the industry. You know, the industry's on a current 6-year run of increasing shipments, and early indications, as Doug touched on, are that we're on pace for a 7th consecutive year. And a question I think not only me, but many of us get asked, well, how long or why the long run now? My short answer is always demographics, lifestyle, and products. And of course, the economy is helping us along right now with good financing that's available, consumer confidence, and on and on and on, all the things that drive the economy. Certainly, demographics are more favorable for the RV industry than ever before. The baby boomers totaling 75 million are still our core market. On the heels of the boomers, however, are the Gen Xers, followed by the millennials, also 75 million strong. This suggests that the recent push and emphasis by the industry on attracting the Gen X and the millennials to the RV lifestyle is spot on and is worth the effort and will pay dividends in the long haul. The Go RVing campaign, which is managed by RVIA and is a collaborative effort with RVDA and funded through seal sales, this, along with the world and national events over time, has elevated the lifestyle and has driven many non-RVers to join the RV community. There is no other vehicle or travel option available today that provides the freedom, affordability, and safety to see North America like an RV does. And the products of today are reaching consumers of all ages. Many are more affordable than ever before. The RVs of today are high-tech and multi-purpose, allowing owners flexibility. It is critical to the health of our industry going forward that the RV owner has a fantastic experience. This includes durable, high-quality products, great service, and adequate, up-to-date campgrounds. Each of these already have a high profile in our industry, as they should. If these things are done well, and I've said this before, I believe that a 500,000 unit shipment year is in the not too distant future for our industry. I don't see anything in the way of stopping us from getting there. Frank Hugelmeyer, RVIA's new president, will talk in a few minutes, but first allow me to say a few things about why I think RVIA is mission critical for the RV industry. Our RVIA staff is focused on the key areas: government affairs, codes and standards, education and training, shows and meetings, public relations, marketing, and Go RVing. The bedrock of RVIA is codes and standards, self-regulation, government affairs, both at the federal and state level, and Go RVing. Also, tremendous focus is given to PR, marketing, shows and meetings, and RV service technician training and education. Another way of saying it is that RVIA, through Go RVing, combined with the efforts of PR and marketing, drive consumers to the dealer's front door. Promotes the industry through shows and meetings. Codes and standards works to maintain self-regulation. And government affairs ensures that we, association members, have a business-friendly environment, free from burdensome and costly laws, excessive regulation, and unnecessary government oversight. And RVIA seeks to enhance the consumer experience through RV service training and education efforts. RVIA is a highly respected voice for our industry in the halls and offices of Washington, D.C. and states around the country, and more recently has become a respected voice in China in a developing RV market. I encourage you to get involved with the association if you haven't already. And this includes becoming a member if you're not already a member, in order to support all that RVIA does for not only you, but for the industry. It also means getting involved in committees. And so I encourage you to step forward and get involved. It's not just our association, but it's an association that reaches way beyond those of us in this room this morning. So I encourage you to get involved. You are the future of the industry, but you're also the future of our association. To learn more, go to rvia.org, and there you can see a listing of the committees and get a wealth of other information. So thank you, and I wish each of you and your companies a profitable and successful year. God bless.
Thank you, Gerald. Thanks for helping clarify some of the core values of core objectives for RVIA for some folks in here today, too. And tell Wilbur it was only a dream on those license fees going down. It's not real, Wilbur. This next speaker is a man that many of you have met for the first time today or will be meeting possibly for the first time today. He's a man that had to be really hyper and tough to raise as a kid because he never sits still. He's got more information than Dr. Curtin at the University of Michigan, more questions than a typical 4-year-old, and more energy than the Exxon Corporation. I'd like to welcome up the president of RVIA, Frank Hugelmeyer.
Thanks, Doug. Thanks, Doug. And I'd like to just take a moment to recognize BJ, Greg, Sherm for putting on just an amazing event. No one's recognized them yet, so thank you guys. Great. Really appreciate the leadership. I'm here to talk about what RVIA is doing in the future, give you a little bit of an oversight, try and get us back on time, maybe. And our mission at RVIA is to protect and promote the RV industry and our members. We're owned by you. I'm so honored and excited to be part of this community, to serve the industry, help grow the market. I can tell you right now, it's a little daunting to come in the most successful 6 months since 1980. I'd like to say I had something to do with it, but I'm very determined to make sure that we're continuing it. And I love the vision of targeting the 500,000 unit mark, because I think that should be what we're expecting and intending to do. I'm going to take you through the numbers that we're seeing in our research at the moment. We'll go through a state of the market. We'll go through the update on what we're doing to innovate and renovate the National RV Trade Show. We'll have a quick Go RVing progress report and then give you some programs on the horizon. Secretary Kempthorne of the Interior, great, he worked under George Bush. He once said, get up, get to the point, and get off. So I'm going to try to honor his public speaking advice. RV business is incredibly strong right now. If you can see, we're right now outpacing 2015 by a significant amount. It's been averaging around 10% to 12% through the first 3 months. If you look at October in the last 6 months, best month in October in 40 years, best November in 10, best December in 11, best January in 10, best February in 39, and the best March in 10 years. And when we went back and looked at the trends, we've never seen a 6-month period since RVIA began reporting in 1980 in this. So we're in an unusually an incredible run that we're having right now, and certainly we've put the recession well behind us. When you look at the numbers in terms of our trends and what our cycles are, and I think it's important right now to try and give you some idea of what's coming at us. We're really at the point of our high peak, March and April, as you're aware, and then we're going to start to see the trend as we normally do and have for really our lifetime as an industry, starting to cycle down in that later part of the year, and then we'll see the kick up towards the end of the year. But if we keep this pace going right now, and as Doug said, if we keep at the pace that we're at right now, we would end up around 420 units. It's unlikely we'll be able to maintain that pace. Even if we went back down to what we were in 2015, we would see a 400-unit year. So the question is that going to happen? So one of the things that we realized, we're in a presidential year. What happens in a presidential year in terms of shipments in the industry? We went back and took a look at the last 15 years, what our average cycle has been. You can see that reflects really what's happened over the last 3 years in the previous slide. But we have a tendency as an industry, when you look at the presidential years, and we took out 2008 because that was an anomaly. You can see we do outperform the early part of the year in presidential years. And we then have a tendency, historically, to slightly underperform at the latter part. Maybe that's the political rhetoric that helps people get hired and get elected, the negative campaigning that's become the norm within the politics. But I think that right now is an interesting indicator of what we might face. However, we're also, when you look at the economic indicators that the industry is dependent upon, we're seeing just green light all the way. And I've looked at our historical data in this area, and I've never seen a chart that looks this solid. We've got the good gas prices. We've got good interest rates. We're seeing the housing starts. In fact, I looked at the car and light truck sales just the other day, and you had those were in a record month in their March as well, which reflects our sales. So we're in very, very good shape here. I think if I put two other economic indicators up here that aren't up here, one would be the political environment or impact, and we'd probably have to add a double trouble category for that, and we'd be in that. The other would be what's the credit consumption of Americans, and I think this is an interesting trend that's coming that I'm watching, and I think we should add to our indicators, which is the student loan debt. Right now, that's at $1.2 trillion in America. These are our future customers. That's the second highest debt, household debt after mortgages. And so when you look at household, car, and then you get to us, I know my colleagues in the boating industry, as well as some of the other lifestyle recreational industries with big ticket items, this is one of the indicators that they're concerned about, and we're going to keep our eye on that from a policy side and see how this is going to shake out long term. But things are looking fantastic. So how do we continue to make that that grow? How can we be on that trend to the 500 mark? I think we're now looking at our market development. How do we help companies sell more, get prepared for that future and that future customer? How do we make sure that we've got a good marketing campaign? And I want to recognize James Ashurst. I don't see him over here, but there you are, James. But he and his team do just a terrific job in the Go RVing campaign, working in partnership with RVDA. So thanks for that, James. So the show of the future, really, if we're looking at how are we moving to that 500 mark, how do we attain that, we really need to look at how do we help our dealer base as well as our manufacturing and OEM and supplier base get prepared for that future. And the show is critical to this. This is the one place in the country where we celebrate the entire industry. Well, to get ready for that, we did a survey after the show to see how we could begin to rejuvenate the show and start to prepare us for the future. And we looked at what dealers want out of the show. How do we grow the attendance and help dealers get ready for this future? And the top reasons dealers attend the national show are new products, latest technology, new suppliers, networking. Right now, they're pretty happy with the show. You've got a rate of 93% of the show good to excellent. And 8 out of 10 buyers rated as a very, very good investment. One of the things that surprised me is nearly half of the buyers that attend the show, they don't attend any other trade fair. And we're seeing now a tripling of the destination camping, which I'm not surprised about because we are seeing a more urbanized America. And I think we're going to see some interesting trends. And so the buying community may be shifting right now in the industry. And it's going to open up new markets for us or expand markets. And then you can see that they're looking for more sales. How do I become a better dealer? How do I sell more? How do I market better? How do we help them do that? And it's going to be one of the things that the show is going to try to help support, where we can make sure that we've got more product going out at the point of sale where our customers are, so that we're driving and feeding the chain that the suppliers are all providing. So we're going to have a greater focus on this future. Who is that customer? What's the dealer of the future? What's the customer of the future? How do we meet that? We're going to have expanded educational tracks. And obviously, making sure that we don't disrupt the sales on the floor is critical. We've heard that from you. I want you to know, from me, that we really do understand that you sell at the open house, the majority of the sales. It's a tremendous early buying show, and we're looking at how do we complement the open house and help finish that job in terms of the sales, make sure that people are really well prepared for their coming year and their season, and setting up each and every year with success. So we're going to have new materials displays. How do we help businesses start to see what the design of the future might be, what materials will be? There'll be a 96 of the latest, greatest new materials that OEMs might be able to use in new product at this coming show. There'll be an outside adventure village, and they're doing a lot in a new consumer that's very exciting and it's trending on social media, of an active lifestyle consumer that's going towards smaller trailer units, which we're seeing a lot of success, and particularly the vans and the lifestyle vans that are on fire right now in a lot of your businesses. You'll see food trucks and beverage concepts and a Go RVing activation center, because we've been doing some new research that will help you and the dealers better understand how to tackle that next consumer and take advantage of them. Of course, our biggest and most important priority is to bring in the dealers that we've lost through the years as we begin to create this new platform for the industry. So how are we getting more from the West Coast? How are we bringing in the Canadian dealers? We're doing a targeted marketing campaign, very aggressive, working with the membership to make sure that we're getting the right people there, getting the right buyers, and making sure that it's a great return on investment for everyone in this industry. We also are looking at concierge services for that 80-20 rule. Those who are driving the majority of the business, we're going to be bringing them in and making sure they're getting very well taken care of at this show coming up. If you have a dealer that's missing, on your table, you'll see an advertisement around the show, and on there is a looks like this. And on the back, there's a little email listing. And if there's somebody that hasn't been at the show, write it down, write your name down, put it on the table. We'll pick it up. And those who give us information, there'll be a $250 bourbon country prize package. Somebody will get that when we pick those up off of there. That courtesy of the Louisville, Kentucky Center, Convention Center. From Go RVing, now, obviously, we're all proud of this program. It's critical, and I can say, coming from outside the industry and working with a lot of associations in the recreation space historically, this is the envy of most other industry sectors. They're stunned at how the industry has come together to pull and pool and unify to create a unified message around the lifestyle. I can tell you I'm very honored to be now part of it. One of the things why this is so critical, and it's important to recognize that we're seeing a fundamental shift in the makeup of our consumer. Our consumer really was based, the boomer, which we've made a living, and you can see we're going to be in a very strong position for the next 4 to 8 years. You're seeing the strength of the boomer moving into the market. We're going to continue. They'll be retiring. They're going to have more time, and they've got the money, and they love our activities. And then you're seeing the Gen X as well as the millennials, and they're coming right into the prime time of our buying category. You have to realize that combination, when you look at the 40 million people who are burdened by the student debt, that's in that category that's coming in. That's going to be our major market. So that's why I'm a little concerned and brought that up earlier. That market right there is so powerful, so strong, but it's different. You now have our industry was built on a rural consumer. 70, 80% of the boomers grew up in a rural environment, very comfortable in the outdoors. 20, 30% were in an urban environment. That has switched in our lifetime. Right now, you've got 70 to 80% growing up in urban, suburban environments, 30% in the rural environment. That's a fundamental shift. You also have a move from the Caucasian to the multicultural, multiracial. That's a fundamental shift. Their definition of recreation is changing, and it's going to have an impact on the business, and we need to be ready for it. And so a lot of the work that we need to do in Go RVing is making sure that we understand this consumer, understand their behaviors, understand their motivations. And I'm happy to say right now we're about to launch the biggest research project. We worked with Nielsen for the last several months in 10 years that the industry has ever done in terms of motivations, not only of our current consumer, but our future consumer. And you're about to see some great work by KOA, which is exciting shortly after my presentation. Go RVing is the largest consumer-facing voice of the RV industry. We've got now over 688 Facebook likes. We should be driving this all the way to 1 million. I think you'll see us look to supercharge that. We now have a video microsite in awaygorving.com. If you haven't been on it, please get on it. It's a fantastic site. Over 250,000 views of consumers have gone on here, and we can tell you just by looking at the Google Analytics that they're heading into our customers. They're heading into rental units to try the lifestyle. This is working, and it's exciting. We also have a seasonal camping campaign that's now been launched, which is really targeting that destination camping trend that we're seeing that's being driven by this urbanization shift. And you're seeing a major expansion of 38 events in experiential marketing around the country: music, outdoor kayaks festivals, Bassmaster, LPGA tournaments, GoPro mountain games, state fairs, college games. When you see one of these consumers come through the unit and they see what's inside an RV, they're stunned. Not only the beauty, the craftsmanship, the innovation, but they can't believe there's even a bathroom or a kitchen. And we've got video of that. So these are hugely effective, and we've really expanded that experiential marketing, and we're going to continue to look at the results of this year and then build from that. Then finally, and in conclusion, there's some great programs coming for the membership coming soon. First, the study, the Consumer Insights and Outlook study that I just mentioned. It's the most comprehensive study in 10 years. We've got Committee Week, an advocacy day. We've got a full day just dedicated to advocacy on the Hill, making sure we're moving the congressional caucuses, the Senate caucuses. We're launching, and for the first time, RV Moves America. And this is the economic study of the entire RV industry, from OEM, dealer, our campgrounds, aftermarket, across the entire country. It's going to be an incredibly powerful lobby tool. It's going to show the true power and promise of this industry and the importance. It's going to give us the tool for us to be able to go to policymakers and say, you need to hear us. We are an economic engine that's extraordinary. You need to know our story, and you need to know how to grow this industry. It's going to help us keep on pace for that 500,000 goal. And then finally, and very exciting news this year, we've got the National Park Centennial, and this hasn't even started to pick up. You're going to have a major campaign by the National Park Service celebrating Find Your Park through this entire year. And you're going to have the President and the First Lady going around advocating for this. And this is going to be should give us a significant trajectory. We already have from KOA and a lot of the state parks, federal parks, they're packed for this year. We're going to have we have an inventory problem for campgrounds. Great opportunity for private campgrounds and destination camping, but we should be trajectorying right out of the Centennial into a very good year. So I'm with Doug in terms of what our prospects are. I think the future is before us. I think the opportunity is extraordinary. I think it's in our hands. As long as we have business certainty and a government relations front and the self-regulation, I can give you my promise that that's going to be top of mind every day going forward. And then we build off of the great work that the team at the Go RVing is doing to create a stronger RV market for all. Thank you very much, everyone.
Thank you, Frank. I mean, if that presentation doesn't pump you up, and Daryl Bontrager bringing up the 500,000 unit thing for the first time out here, I don't know what will. I think you're going to be even more pumped up when we get done with this next presentation. Our final speaker before the fireside chat represents one of the most respected brands in our industry. Toby O'Rourke is the Chief Franchise Operations Officer for Campgrounds of America, Inc., the world's largest system of campgrounds and a leader in outdoor hospitality. In this capacity, she oversees the national marketing for KOA and the franchise and services that support the brand's 485-plus locations. Strengthened by a background in CPG brand management, software development, and consulting, O'Rourke thrives in the intersection of business and technology. Toby originally came to KOA in 2011 to advance KOA's approach to digital marketing, mobile delivery, and social media. Prior to transitioning to the Chief Franchise Operations Officer, she served as the Senior Vice President of Marketing, where she drove the launch of KOA's first integrated advertising campaign, What's Behind the Yellow Sign. She has also been instrumental in the development of KOA's brand segmentation, which is realigning their campgrounds based on guest experience. O'Rourke has a Master of Business Administration degree from the Kellogg School of Management at Northwestern University and a Bachelor of Arts degree from the University of Notre Dame. A mother of 2 young children and a native Montanan, she is passionate about promoting the outdoors and encouraging families to experience the upsides of the outside. Please give a warm welcome to Toby O'Rourke.
Thank you. Make my slides coming up. There we are. Can we flip some of the slides? Just a second. I have a great picture to show you, so I'm waiting for it to show. I want to show it to you. Here we go. This is the future customer. This is your future customer. It's our future customer. This isn't a marketing photo. These aren't models. These are actual campers at the Ventura Ranch KOA a couple weeks ago. A picture posted to Instagram. Truly, the face of camping is changing. You've been hearing about that earlier this morning, and that's what I want to talk more about. For the second year in a row, KOA has published the North American Camper Report. This is a comprehensive study on all camping across North America, who camps, why they camp, where they camp, how they camp. And what we learned in the research this year is not too surprising. A lot of people are camping. We've all had record years. In fact, 28 million households in North America camp every year, 22% of which in RVs. But what was most interesting to me in the research, and what I want to talk more about, was who the new camper was. 1.2 million households came into camping last year. And that really represents our future. We spent a lot of time talking about what's happening this year, what's happening next year. But what's happening 5 to 10 years out really centers on this new camper. And it's important that we all collectively understand who they are and why they camp so that we're best positioned to capture them, whether that's you getting them to buy an RV or me getting them to go to a KOA campground. So who is this new camper? For one, they're younger. 44% of all new camping households last year were millennials, between the ages of 18 to 35. As you just saw, millennials represent the largest segment of the U.S. population, so it's really promising to us that they're coming out and camping. Beyond being younger, the new camper is diverse. 40%, in fact, of all new households to camping last year were from African American, Hispanic, or Asian backgrounds. For the first time, we're seeing the makeup of new campers more closely reflect general population figures. If you look at this graph here, the top is the U.S. Census data from 2010, and below is the new camper makeup. And you can see there's a lot of similarities there. 1 in 5 new campers last year were from African American households. 11% of new campers were Hispanic, 10% were Asian. And this is a significant shift. If we look at the next graph that I'm going to add to the bottom there, that's all campers. That's the spread of all campers last year. And you can see that only 23% of households were multicultural. So the fact that double that made up the new camper base shows us that there's a big shift happening recently. I think there's 2 things driving that. First of all, when we look at the millennial group that we just talked about, there's something we're calling a flattening effect. The behaviors and the attitudes about why they camp and how they camp are the same, regardless of their ethnicity. So naturally, as more millennials camp, more of them are going to be minorities. Secondly, the National Park Service has really stepped up its efforts to market to the multicultural family. In 2011, there was a study you may be familiar with by the University of Wyoming that said that minorities didn't know about the Park Service or they didn't feel welcome there. So the Park Service has shifted their approach in more direct marketing, using influencer groups, even changing the makeup of their park rangers, and we're starting to see more minorities coming to the parks, which naturally leads them to more camping. And then we should talk about tents. 48% of campers were in tents. 31% of new campers were in cabins, which is great news for our friends here in the park model business. But even though the largest segments of these campers are not in RVs, they will be in RVs, and that's why we want to talk more about them. We asked them, what are you interested in trying in 2016? And as you can see, here were some of the responses from millennials. There is interest in buying RVs and trying RVs, and the more that we can keep this new camper camping and feeling the benefits of camping and exposing them to your products, as they have more purchasing power, the more likely they are going to be to purchase those RVs. I was just in California. I met the founder of Outdoorsy. If you're not familiar with this company, basically it's like an Airbnb for RVs. People purchase an RV and then allow people to rent that RV from them for use. This could be a great way to get more millennials to try your product, to then get them to buy a product when they step into the market. So we talked a little bit about who the new camper is, but we need to understand what they value in their purchase decisions. That allows us to better meet their expectations and capture their attention. I also really firmly believe that research needs to be actionable. So I try to take this research and see what we can incorporate into our KOA campgrounds from either amenity standpoints or site design, and I'd encourage you to do the same. What can some of this research spark for you to help influence product design? One thing we know is that the new camper values quality. In fact, millennials and Gen Xers said in the research that they value site quality more so than location. And that's fascinating to me because it's very different from what we see from older campers. One thing we're doing at KOA is investing in our sites and really trying to step up the experience for the RV camper. This is one of our patio RV sites. As you can see, paved surfaces, seating areas, fire rings, really trying to dial up that experience. This is our highest rated RV sites and also command the highest rate. We also know that new campers are camping in groups. We see a lot of families camping. 51% of millennials are camping with families. 67% of Gen Xers are camping as family units. We see a lot of multi-generation camping happening, particularly within the Hispanic demographic. So knowing that the product usage is largely happening in groups, how does that influence your product design? I think for us, we're going to start to see potentially more campgrounds building sites by each other that accommodate cabins, RVs, and tents, because we know that friends and families are coming together and they all are camping different ways. And really the group experience is all about the outdoors. The outdoor space is where everybody comes together. And so how does that influence your product? This is a great picture of how innovation on the outside of the RV allows for that group experience. What other features can we incorporate, whether that's on campground sites or in the RVs, to encourage group sharing? And finally, we should talk about Wi-Fi. It's not surprising that younger campers are tech savvy. Millennials are more likely to bring their smartphones camping, but we also see strong spikes when we get to the ethnic groups, particularly African Americans. People are using technology at every aspect of the trip. And I think that the brands that are going to win with the millennials are going to win with technology. Just a few things to consider about the millennials. 93% of millennials said they check product reviews and read blogs before they make a purchase. So do you know what the reviews about your products say? Are they easily accessible to your consumers? Are you working with bloggers to tell your story? And you can't just say you get social media and you're hitting the millennial target because you're on Facebook. In fact, 27% of millennials only check Facebook once a week. There's lots of new channels that you can reach these demographics. For example, 93% of mothers are on Instagram every week. 67% are on Instagram every day. We know women are driving purchase decisions. And in fact, 30% of women that camp are not camping with a spouse or a significant other. You want to talk to millennials, you should be on YouTube. 81% of millennials are on YouTube. It's a great place to tell a product story. 60% of millennials are on Snapchat. And we've got some work to do there as well. As we start to talk to these future campers, we need to be in the right channels. Websites, another important spot. Or can you make that website experience personalized? Manufacturers, can you connect those people on your website directly to dealers? And dealers, can you connect them to the actual product in your lot so that they can complete that purchase? And then the most important thing that millennials are asking for in a camping experience is Wi-Fi. We see in the research that they expect free Wi-Fi, and they're choosing their campground based off the availability of Wi-Fi. So our campgrounds are investing heavily in Wi-Fi systems. It's expensive, it's difficult, it's really hard to keep up with the expectation. But I would also challenge you is how can you keep the camper connected? Because I really do think that's where we're going to win with millennials. So we've talked about who they are, what they value, but we also need to understand why they're camping. The research tells us that people are camping to escape the stress of everyday life, blow off steam, which we live in a very fast-paced society, so that makes a lot of sense. But again, it comes back to connecting with family and friends. The new camper, more than anybody else, said that they're camping with friends and family, and that's what's driving them to camp. The next few pictures I have here are just pictures from Instagram. These aren't KOA marketing photos. These are things I just grabbed off the internet that's showing people in the camping experience. And when you look at these pictures, you can see what they really value and what's connecting with them. It's like the governor was talking about this morning, those little moments that people center in on. And I think it's important to reflect on those and understand that we're really not in the RV business. We're really not in the campground business. We're in the memory-making business, the family getaway business, the take-a-break business. And if you can keep that really close, I think that provides a lot of motivation that our business is doing something very powerful for people. We're bringing people together in the outdoors. Collectively, we're all doing that. And centering in on that is what led to the evolution of our advertising campaign, which I wanted to show you. We have new commercials that are just airing right now on cable television, and they're very sensory-based. They focus in on those little moments that you remember from camping, whether that's the sights or smells, the sounds of summer. About a camping trip you took in the past and encourages you to try to take one again. We have 3 new commercials, one for every time of day. So if you're watching TV in the morning, you're going to see the morning commercial. Likewise at night, you're going to see a nighttime commercial. And they're all built on this idea of what could you be doing right now at a campground versus what you're doing, watching TV at the office at work. So since it's morning, I thought we would take a look at the morning commercial.
What's happening now behind the yellow sign? Spend your morning like this, camping at KOA.
We do truly want people to spend their mornings like this. Not that this isn't a wonderful breakfast, but I'd love to be spending my morning like this as well. Get people out to camp. Which brings me to the outlook. What do we see for the future outlook of the business this year? You know, what's very positive is that people love the camp. If you look at the research that the U.S. Travel Association has done, it shows that 41% of Americans don't take their vacation time. They don't take any vacation days. But our research showed us that when you look just at campers, only 14% don't take their vacation time. So campers want to camp. Campers are getting out to camp. In fact, 31% of the households that camp told us they plan to camp more this year. And that millennial group we just talked about is planning to camp. 58% of them said they plan to camp more, which is great. So they're getting out to camp, they're planning to camp more, and we're seeing strong growth across all the different demographics, as you can see there. But it's spring, the outlook looks really good. KOA ended our year up 6% overall, but in our short-term business, which is really the heart of our business, we're up 11%. And as of today, we're up 20% in reservations for the year. So people are coming to camp this summer, and we couldn't be more thrilled. And I'd like to thank you for having us here, and I hope that you will take this research that we did and make it your research as well. If you see something in the report, it's all available online. We can get copies to you. If you see something that you want to know about, please reach out to us because we probably have that piece of data, or we can try to incorporate it in next year's research. And you all know Lauren Armour, our Vice President of Brand Development, or most of you know Lauren. He seems to be everywhere. He works really hard to connect KOA with dealers and with manufacturers so that we can connect you with campers. I think it's a win-win situation for all of us if we work together. Because as we look at this future camper group that we're talking about, it's going to take all of us pulling together and really focusing on them so we're still seeing this record growth year after year for the foreseeable future. Thank you for your time this morning. I think Sherman.
So, real quickly, I wanted to present Toby with a check for KOA Care Camps, a nonprofit that sends kids to camp. It's not enough.
Thank you, Sherman.
Kids with cancer, and 129 camps this year, and raised $1.5 million last year from KOA Corporate, from their 500 franchise parks, and Cabela's, and God knows who else. So anyway, $2,500 might help.
Thanks, Sherman.
All right.
Appreciate it.
All right.
Now, I'm going to read because I'm like not a public presenter or anything. Now, let's turn to a rare moment for many of us, a fireside chat with two of the most powerful and influential individuals in the North American RV industry. Forest River President and CEO Pete Legal and Thor Industries Chairman Peter Orthwein. Gentlemen, please, if you would, join me on stage here. And somebody's supposed to help me with a lavalier. Am I live? Can you hear me? Have a seat, guys. Pete and Peter oversee two huge, really huge, competitive Elkhart-based firms. And you know all this, right? But I'm going to say it anyway. That are remarkably similar in size and impact on a national scale, and together account for about 22,000 employees, $8 billion in annual revenues, and 70+% of the U.S. RV market. Pete Legal is a Petoskey, Michigan native with an, if I get this right, with an undergrad degree from Marquette University and an MBA from Western Michigan. Best known for his business acumen and entrepreneurial nature. Pete was affiliated with Clark Equipment Company, Coachman Industries, and Cobra Van American before founding Forest River 20 years ago. As many of you know, Pete is in 2005 sold Forest River, a towable and motorized RV manufacturer with headquarters on the west side of Elkhart, to Warren Buffett's Omaha-based Berkshire Hathaway, Inc. A Bristol resident, he continues to actively run his company on a daily, and I'm told hourly, basis with a loyal core of division heads. Pete, as you also know, also owns national air charter service called Travel Management. Thor's Peter Orthwein is a Connecticut resident and as fate would have it, the great-great-grandson of Adolphus Bush. Do I have that right? Yeah, double great-grandson of Adolphus Bush, founder of Anheuser-Busch. Armed with a BA and an MBA from Cornell, Peter was an investment banker specializing in troubled divisions and was completely clueless about RVs in 1977 when he and partner Wade F.B. Thompson acquired High-Low Trailer Company in Butler, Ohio for not much money. Next came Jackson Center, Ohio's Airstream, Inc., which the two purchased in 1980 from Beatrice Foods, a year after it posted a $12 million loss. Now, along with Winnebago, Airstream is arguably the world's most iconic brand. And the company they started, which is Thor, based on the first two letters of their respective last names. It's T-H and O-R, right? It went public in 1984. Although their companies are fierce competitors, you might be surprised to know that Pete and Peter have developed a friendship over the years. They've been known to share an occasional dinner at Ruth's Chris in Mishawaka, and they also share a charitable spirit that led them, among other things, to establish a Forest River Thor Community Foundation about 3 or 4 years ago to provide emergency financial assistance to their respective employees. So I ought to ask a question or two here and shut the hell up. I will, I promise, because we got to get out of here. I said 10 o'clock, right? All right. So here's question number one. Outlook. Shipments up. We've heard all the good news. We heard it from Frank Ugelmeyer. Heard it from Daryl Bontrager. How do things look? I'm going to cut to the chase here. For 2016, how does 2016 play out? Either one of you. How do you work this? Says Peter.
Testing. Is that working?
Is it working?
Well, we see the industry still is very strong and don't see any problems on the horizon right now. Interest rates are low. Retail is strong. We don't see any excesses. I know a lot of ourselves included are adding capacity to handle this great period of time in our industry, and we watch retail, and we watch the interest rates and everything. But so far, so good. It's our industry is hard to predict over the long term, but right now everything looks good.
Go ahead.
I have to agree with Pete. I think he sums it up very well.
Seriously, Pete? Seriously? So you want me to ask another question?
Go ahead.
All right.
Go ahead, Sherm.
So widen it up a little bit, if you would. Tell me about the big picture, the industry long haul, the industry beyond this year. Great expectations?
Personally, I think we're in the right place at the right time. I guess when you look at the makeup of the person who buys the RV, and with the new, younger generation coming on, whatever you call them, they're much more academians, highly educated, compared to the old-timers, but that's where the opportunity lies. And I believe that they're wanting something totally different than what our forefathers wanted. They want a unit that is correct, that they have no problems with it, because if they do, they got a half-assed brother-in-law that became an attorney that can't get a job that's willing to sue you, So, but that's the problem. That's the beast out there, and they want immediate satisfaction. And so I think our jobs as a manufacturer is to give them a unit that is quality conscious, that is trouble-free. And I guess that's why we at Forest River say our number one priority is customer satisfaction. I think that is why we have been fortunate enough to grow, and we firmly believe that within our company. And I think that with this new group coming on, we have to be much more conscientious on what we do and what we turn out compared to what we have been in the years past. So I think the future looks extremely rosy for us.
So you just answered my next question. Go ahead, Peter.
No, I couldn't agree with Pete more. I think we are at a really good point in time for the RV lifestyle. And I think that lifestyle, people don't want to go travel, to Europe or whatever. They're worried about terrorism or whatever. And there's so much to see in the U.S. That I think, this is really our time in our industry, and I see it continuing to grow. I couldn't also agree with Pete more about the customer experience. I mean, that's the most important thing for our industry, is to make sure that the customer has a good experience. And one of the problems our industry has to solve is when the customer has a problem with the unit, we need to get it fixed quickly. and satisfactorily. And I know sometimes, too often, vacations are ruined because the unit has a problem and the dealers can't fix it. And I think it's a situation that the whole industry has got to work on. From the supplier, we've got to make sure that the supplier is providing quality products to the manufacturer, who makes sure we build a very high quality product, to the dealer, who somehow figures a way that they can service the product. And we as manufacturers and suppliers have to get them the parts quickly and the correct parts so that they can fix the unit. So I mean, that's a challenge to our industry, because if a customer has a bad experience, we lose them. And if he has a good experience, this is the greatest lifestyle in the world.
Some people say that it's the issue, the theme of the year, really, even though it hasn't been voiced that much, although Pete's been pretty outspoken about the customer satisfaction, what you and Bob Martin call the customer experience. All right, next. And by the way, we're going to open it up to the crowd with a couple of floating mics here and another question or two. And we'll still get you out of here like 10 a.m. Promise, sort of. One of the hot topics in the industry these days is consolidation at every level. Manufacturers, suppliers, distributors, and dealers, both through acquisition and organic growth, to an extent that we've never seen before. It's the way of the world in a lot of business sectors. And your two companies are certainly examples of the sheer market mass that can result from this ongoing trend. Combine Forest River, you know all this, but let me say it. Combine Forest River, Thor, and Jayco's market shares, and you've got 83% of the U.S. market in the hands of three companies. Do you see this all continuing in the future? And Peter, could you tell us who Thor's planning to buy next?
Well, I have to be a little careful answering this because my general counsel is here, and he's looking at me pretty hard. But there is what the hell? There is one company that we would really like to own in the industry, and Pete, that's Forest River. Unfortunately, I don't think they're for sale, and if they were, I'm not sure we could afford them. But
we'd love to sell the Thor, because they pay a good buck. We could do better than when we sold to Warren. But when you mention 83% between Thor, Forest River, and Jayco, and you look at going forward, is that should we have more or less? And when I look at saying, okay, what does Forest River have? Going forward, we're going to have 40%. Forest River is. Thor and Forest River is pretty much neck and neck, so they'll probably have 40%. So you mentioned that it's 83% between the three of us. That leaves 3% for Jayco. You know? Now, I'm sure Mr. Bontrager isn't going to settle for that. Okay? I just know that. So he might say, okay, these two guys got 80%. He might take the last 20. So that's 100. So now that's where the problem begins. Okay? What is Winnebago going to do? You know? What is our Phoenix buddy's going to do? You know? But anyway, we're going to take our 40%, and if Jayco wants to cut everybody else out, that's their business. But I'm going to stay out of it. But I'm going to get my 40% going forward.
So Pete, would you say then that Grand Design's wasting their $11 million expansion?
No, I wouldn't say that. You know.
No, I think your question too was whether the industry would continue to consolidate, and I think as long as it makes sense, it will continue at the supplier level, the manufacturer level, and at the dealer level, because as long as consolidation improves the experience of the customer, whether it's through lower prices, through better service, or whatever. I think as long as it makes sense for the consumer, the customer, I think that will continue to happen. I know we as Thor, we're in a great position because we have a strong balance sheet, and we're generating a lot of cash, and we're going to use that cash to grow. We have the choice of paying special dividends or buying back shares, but our first choice is to continue to grow, and there are a lot of opportunities. Our industry is great; it's growing, so we're in a good spot. We a year ago bought Postal. That acquisition has worked out very well for us. We knew the customer because it was ourselves. We knew the product because we were using it. We knew the management. All those things were good, and so we said there's really not a lot of risk for us here because we know all those things. We're not going to go buy something outside the industry, but from that perspective, we're going to continue to grow.
I'll ask one more question before I think we open it up here for a couple of minutes. Yet another talking point heard in the Elkhart area is about the labor pool. While other areas of the country struggle to regain jobs at various levels, we're told that this area may have already reached or surpassed full employment. The same, by the way, could be said about the Iowa locale of Winnebago Industries. Does this mean that the next major expansion moves will likely be in more remote locales outside this northern Indiana area, following Forest River and Heartland and Winnebago's recent decisions? Go ahead.
Well, obviously, we just, in the last year plus, we purchased a couple places in Oregon, bought another one in California. We're opening up a place in Michigan, even though we're putting up a good-sized facility in Elkhart, and we put up a couple more in Goshen. But I believe that business goes where it's wanted, and quite specifically doing business with the city of Goshen, city of Elkhart, been tough, and we can do business easier elsewhere, and there's not the labor problem. So I personally think that you're going to see more expansion on our part and outside the area. And I say, even though we're putting up a good-sized facility right next to our corporate, that's $185,000 for motorhomes because we need more motorhome production. And we're putting up 2 other plants that are just about completed over in Goshen. But I plan on expanding elsewhere versus here just because it's easier to do business elsewhere.
Okay.
Yeah. Heartland just started up a plant in Idaho. The West Coast is a growing market for us. California is coming back, and certainly we need capacity out there, especially with the smaller lightweight trailers, where freight's a big item. So that's a big benefit for us, and so growing in that area so we can service the West Coast is important. And we've been adding capacity here in Elkhart County as well as in LaGrange, and we're very sensitive to the labor market, and it is difficult to find employees now, and so that's certainly an ingredient for us as to where we expand.
Okay. DJ, floating mics, how are we doing? All right, we're opening it up to the audience. Raise hands. I see one over here. Anybody else who wants to ask these gentlemen a question?
Hello, Nick Harrison here from the Elkhart County Middlebury KOA, intersection of 13 and 120. How close do you think the RV industry is to having built-in Wi-Fi into the RVs? Kind of following suit with the automotive industry.
Did you get that, or do you want to repeat it?
We have Wi-Fi in RVs, I think, a number of them.
I really appreciate that. I'd like more, please. That'd be great. Second comment, I suppose would be more of a comment than a question. On Saturday, we are having a fundraiser for the care camps, kids with cancer. So if anyone could come out, we're having activities and whatnot, and donate some money, $5, $2, whatever you got. That'd be great. We're having an auction. A lot of you donated a lot of great items, and we really appreciate that.
Other questions from the floor? I can ask more. One back there. BJ, what time is it? So what? 10? All right. All right.
Yes, Mike Stock from Michael Corporation. Trying to answer that gentleman's question. There is a product called the Wi-Fi Ranger that goes out 2.5 miles, grab your signal, and can give you all your access that you want.
Shameless. So any more questions from the floor? If not, I'll ask one last one from my end. All right. Nostalgia. I was going to avoid it, but one question. Takeaway. Your years, your tenure in the industry. If you had to capsulize one takeaway, one memory, one lesson for the room of what you gathered, your top takeaway, what would, from your tenure in the industry, what would that be?
I think the most important thing we as an industry need to do is really be very careful that we don't let the excesses occur. I mean, we have had downturns, the 79 and 80, and obviously it was the 2008, 2009 downturn. And the companies that survived were really aggressive you needed to be aggressive in cutting back. And you needed to really watch, the industry retail sales and cut back and maintain strong balance sheets. And I think that as an industry, it's very important for us because there will be, there are times like this where the thing's great, but there are also going to be times. Now, as an industry, if we're very careful and don't let the excesses build, bad times won't be as bad. But we need to be very careful about that.
Well, I think in my experiences, I feel that customer satisfaction today is so much more important than what it was 20 years ago. 20 years ago, it was buyer beware. And if you bought it, it's your problem. Today, the consumer is right. And so I think that it is the biggest change that I have seen in the 20, 30 years that we have to do things much better than what we did 20, 30 years ago, because if we don't, we'll be out of business. We'll end up in court before that, though, on a multitude of things. But we have to give customer satisfaction. And if we're going to build something, we have to do it right. We got to take care of that customer. And I mean from the time we build it to the time we ship it to the dealer to the time the customer gets it. And so I believe that customer satisfaction is the biggest influence on me. Okay.
All right.
I certainly agree.
Go ahead, Peter.
I certainly agree with what Pete says. That really is important.
All right. Thank you. Hang on a second here. Concluding remarks from Goldenberg. Thank you. Everyone, that concludes our program. Sponsors, attendees, everybody else. We couldn't have asked for a better turnout and a more gratifying event than what transpired here today. Get back to work.